Barber when he came through, like from customs, wherever, through the double doors. He picked everyone out, you know, he'd pat one and caress one on the cheek. Everyone that was there to meet him, picked them out of the crowd. It was in that little Morris Minor when we left the airport, Bill left, and then I was beside the baggage for the Mundaley, and I didn't see Bill's car anymore until just approaching the Harbour Bridge. And then I saw it there just ahead of me in the next lane to me, and Barber had his back to me. And I thought, oh, if Barber's the avatar, he'll know what I'm thinking. And so I thought, Barber is love. And Barber turns around and he gives me the sign of perfection. So then I thought, Barber is truth. And he turns around again and gives me the sign of perfection. And I thought, Barber is God. Turns right round and gives me the sign of perfection. So then he must have gone the other way via French's Forest, and I went through Seaforth, and I decided to try and race him to used to be a blinking light in those days, so I thought I'd race him to the blinking light. And I was just going flat out towards the blinking light when Barber's car went past. You'd never race him with anything.
Did it change your conviction about Barber?
No, I thought he was God anyway, so. So then we arrive at my house, and then Barber said that he'll see us tomorrow at 9 o'clock Barber time. Barber time's always early. So if he says he's going to be back in 700 years' time, you can expect to look for him in about 650 years' time. So, there you go. The meals were all cooked down at, it was called a shed or a garage, and was down below. It's where Jenny and Ross's house is now. But in those days it was just a garage with a dirt floor. The men were in tents, and I think Will's family was in tents too. And that night Barber told us to make sure the children were warm because it would be cold, and sure enough cold wind blew up in the night. And during the night I was asleep in the tent, and I feel a slight bump on the shoulder, and I just saw a kind of a shadowy figure go through the tent, and I thought it was Barber, but that was about all. We all met Barber in the big room, and then one time Barber said he was going to Melbourne, and anyone that could go was invited to go with him, so I was able to go. And we went down in an Ansett DC-6, and
John was an air traffic controller, that's why he remembers it.
And
planes.
when we were in Melbourne, Barber stayed at Dr. O'Brien's, and he visited about 5 or 6 other places, and I didn't know why at the time, but why it was that he'd been invited to about 6 places and he could only stay in one, so he visited the others. So just as well I didn't know, because on the way coming back in the plane I thought, oh, I wish I'd have known you could invite Barber to visit your house, or I would have invited him to visit mine. Right as I'm thinking this, I get a message, John, come and sit next to Barbara. And I'd been thinking that I'd have to go through Francis and, it'd probably be hopeless to try and invite him. So, anyway, now I didn't have to go through Francis. I sat next to Barbara and invited him to my place tomorrow. So he said, yes, 10:30 or something. Go and sit down. So at the same time, Francis Lee was thinking the same thing. So he calls Francis, come and sit next to Barbara. And so she comes and sits next to Barbara and invites him to her place. And he says, yes, at 11 o'clock, go and sit down. So there we go. And then the next day, he gets to our place, and my father-in-law used to live nearby in Headland Road, and he thought, I think we were supposed to go for a trip to the Blue Mountains or something that day, and he thought we wanted to borrow his car. It was a bigger car than ours, so. But, and he came over and he was just dressed in his, he had on his pants and braces, and he wasn't dressed for meeting the Avatar, and he was a bit worried about it. And so as he was going out, we had a little patio right up the back. And so as he was just leaving the kitchen, he said, oh, if Barbara wants to see me, I'll be up here. And so, and incidentally, I'd wanted a picture of Barbara, but my wife didn't particularly want to have one, so I thought, oh, well, never mind, we won't quarrel about it. So while I was in Melbourne, she'd met him on the public day, and she went and bought a frame for the picture and put it there in the lounge. And so when Barbara came, she'd made a garland for Barbara, and at the front door she puts the garland on Barbara, and so Barbara visits every room in the house, and in my bedroom I'd bought a second copy of God Speaks to lend to people, and so he gestures towards that on the desk and gives me a hug, brace, and then he goes through every room in the house, and then when he comes to the spot where Barbara had said if he wants to see me, I'll be up here. I said, Barbara, would you like to meet my father-in-law? He said, does he want to meet me? So I ran up and asked Pop, oh yes, he says. And he'd been in the Middle East during the war, so he said Salam Alaikum, and I think the answer is Salam
Alaikum salam.
Yeah, so that was that. And then Barbara comes back and he takes the garland from his neck and he puts it over the picture, over himself in the picture. And then Francis Brabazon asked for some cigarettes, and I thought it was for Barbara. And so the shops were just not far away, so I race over there and in the car, and they don't have the particular brand, so then I think I'll rush down to DY and get them. So I rushed down there, but when I got back, Barbara was gone. And he told me that I was forgiven for absenting myself. So yeah, that was his visit to her place. Barbara, as soon as Pop says, oh yes, I'd like to meet him, Barbara was up there, got up there in no time. What happened was when Barbara says, does he want to meet me, I ran up to my father-in-law and said, Pop, do you want to meet Barbara? And by the time Pop stood up and said, oh yes, yes, Barbara was up there, up on the patio. We could ask him anything we liked, and I just felt that there was nothing that I wanted to ask him. His presence was just so all enveloping. So I sat next to him. He's there slightly higher than I am, and he puts his arm over my shoulders, and I just feel as though there's waves of love coming from him to me. And I just experienced this for 5 minutes, and then it was all over. So that was it.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.